You're watching the Top 6 Show, the original multi-club fan channel. Make sure you're following us now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. The link is in the description below. To the Top 6 Show. It's Monday night. Hit the like buttons, subscribe. Make sure you've got the bell notifications turned on as well. Lots to delve into today. Big claims from Arsenal fans that they are on a level or maybe even surpass that of Man City after the Declan Rice signing. We're delving into that on the show today. Man United bidding for Amrabat. Some say it's happened. Some say it is imminent and on its way. We're talking about that deal. We're talking about Cavadonna and could he be on his way to the Premier League, plus touching on the Caicedo deal, Lavia, Maguire maybe being on his way to West Ham as well. Any other questions, any other talking points, send them into us. Member chats get prioritized, super chats above them as well. My panel tonight, as you can see, Tom Little's back with us after a little hiatus. Haven't seen him for a while, to be fair. Young Daniel's here, back in Tottenham. Don is back by popular demand, looking after his Chelsea team. And making his debut tonight, we've got Jay or Jermaine backing Arsenal, being our Gooner representative this evening. We've got Pete joining us soon as well to talk about Newcastle, who are being busy in the market as it stands right now. But that's why he's running a little late. Someone said that the panel's looking slim. It's just he's got father duties. He'll be here momentarily. So stay with the Terrace today. How is everybody there? Everybody well? Everybody good?
Incredibly well. Yeah. Incredibly good. Well. My club is selling Jordan Henderson. I never thought I'd see the day. This will be like what it's like when Maguire goes for you. Except we've had to deal with this for longer. It'll be beautiful.
Hey, have some respect for your legend, Tom, man. Come on.
I'll have some respect for my legend when he stops trying to square up to my goalkeeper for something that he wasn't involved in.
I hear you, mate. I hear you. Listen, Liverpool, are you happy with your business so far as a Liverpool fan? Genuinely?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't expect us. We sort of knew Newcastle was going to happen. Then Szoboszlai is a really big signing. But for me, I'm just happy that we're actually, this is a real change from what we've seen in years gone by, where the big issue I've always had with us is we keep hold of players for too long. We're too sentimental. If this was last year or something, Fabinho would probably still be at the club. Henderson would definitely still be at the club. We'd be rejecting them offers. Now we're looking at it, and I'm potentially seeing Fabinho gone, which is a big thing. I'm also one of the ones who's behind that move because we are never seeing £40 million again for Fabinho. If he has another season like last season, we're lucky to get 20. So I think it's a smart thing to do to cash out now. And with Henderson, really good move to get him off the books. We just need to nail the replacements for them. Romeo Lavia, I know we're and on about the price, 50 million, but I look at that and I look at Caicedo, who could go for 100, and I sit there and go, Romeo Lavia is probably a better deal. The gap in quality between Lavia and Caicedo is not worth double the price, for me anyway. So I don't know why we're and ahhing over that one. The rest of them, maybe we get involved in the Caicedo deal. Maybe there's, as long as it's not Calvin Phillips, basically. Go get me two other midfielders, but as long as they're on there with Calvin Phillips or Ryan Gravenberch or whoever else was mentioned.
I've read rumours today that Chelsea could be reporting Liverpool, along with Brighton, to the FA for the way you've been tapping up Levi Colwill. I heard you guys could be in a little bit of trouble as well, Liverpool.
I mean, last time we tried to tap up a centre-back and it went wrong, it ended up being all right for us. Virgil van Dijk came in, he's done all right. So the transfer strategy's worked in the past, that's all I can say. But it's been a weird window is what I'll say. It's been a very, very weird window to have that happen as well.
I want to ask the panel this question. If Liverpool allow Fabinho and Henderson to go, let's just say it feels the most likely incoming maybe Lavia. Are they going to lack experience in the midfield next season to win the Premier League? Because as far as I'm concerned, Liverpool fans might not like hearing this, but if Liverpool don't win the league, it's failure in terms of their Premier League campaign. Is that a good enough midfield to surpass this Man City team?
To be honest, it all depends on who they bring in. I know they're trying to bring in Lavia, and when I had this conversation with Mons and Jerry a few weeks ago, I said the players I would get rid of is Thiago because he's never available, and Henderson, the ability is not there anymore. Fabinho, I said I would keep to bed Lavia in, because Lavia obviously is good, but he's not he's not a seasoned pro. Do you know what I mean? He only had one season in the Prem. Prior to that, he was playing under 23 football. So for me, I would have kept Fabinho and then kept him for probably another season. So it's like an easy handover for Lavia. But if you're getting rid of him and Henderson, keeping Thiago, he's never fit. You're lacking quite a bit of experience in that midfield. I get what you're saying, Tom, in terms of Fabinho. Like, you're not going to get that sort of money again. But if I had to pick out of those three midfielders, I would have probably got rid of Henderson and Thiago before him. Only because he's still been playing, and like I said, it's more of a natural handover for Lavia. Do you know what I mean? Giving Lavia that responsibility.
Yeah, 100%. I was one of the ones who wanted to see Thiago go because I'm sick of the constant little injury problems that we have, and the idea that we need to build a team around him to get 20 games out of him a season. I disagree with, but in the same breath, £40 million for Fabinho with the way this club is ran, and that's why I have to base it on the way this club runs itself. £40 million for Fabinho could fund minimum one transfer, maybe even partly fund two, which is going to go a long way than what one more year of Fabinho was going to do for us. I think there's concerns about the experience, which are completely fine, but I'm one of the ones who doesn't believe we're going to win the league next year anyway. I still think City are going to be too strong. So my focus is on, am I going to be able to build a squad next year that can compete in the Europa League, win me the Europa League, can win me a domestic cup, and then by the time we get to 24, 25, are in a position with experience and depth to be ready to be favourites for that league title, because that's what we need to be if we're not winning it next year.
I get the argument that if you get rid of Fabinho, then you're gonna have a little bit of experience left in the team. But just because you've signed a lot of young players doesn't mean that they don't have experience. We have to remember you signed a World Cup winner, so there is still some experience in that midfield. But yeah, I hear the argument that Fabinho would be a real loss of experience in the midfield. But I don't think Liverpool right now, especially a lot of Liverpool fans, are expecting to go into next season. The target is to win the Premier League. So I think what they have right now is enough to, a few more transfers, and what they have is enough to get what they want from the season next season.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, you don't want to waste another season of Salah's not getting any younger. Do you know what I mean? Last season he had a good season in terms of output. So I don't think Liverpool are far off challenging, in all honesty. It's all about who they get in to replace Fabinho. If you, for example, brought in a Paulinho, I would say he would be a like-for-like replacement in terms of experience, physicality. He had a better season than Lavia last season as well. So it's all about who you bring in to replace. Like, if you want to get rid of Fabinho, cool. But Lavia, I don't know if he's going to be that guy to, he's not as experienced as like a Paulinho, for example.
My issue with the experience thing, it comes down to like semantics, really. It does come down to that. I look at it and I go, because I've had this debate with Caicedo as well. People sit there and try and tell me that Romeo Lavia is inexperienced, but Caicedo is experienced enough to lead a team, be the lone six in a team that wants to win titles. And then you look at these stats, and Caicedo's played 15 games more at this level than Lavia. Palhinha's played 6 more. Like, Palhinha's got a lot more years behind him, but they were in the Portuguese league. So how much weight do you want to put on those? Is it going to apply for when you're in title challenge games against the likes of Manchester City and that? I look at it and I go, if we get Palhinha, we're probably in a better position to challenge for next season because of the age and everything, if people want to run with that. But you look at that then and go, you're just going to have to go readdress that issue in 2 to 3 years' time. You're just kicking the can down the road. Whereas the way I look at it, I go, if I can nail getting Lavia, getting Terrace, and maybe even pushing the boat out and getting one more in preparation for when Thiago goes next summer, I've secured my midfield for 5 years and I don't need to touch it again because we do not deal well when it comes to the midfield. We waited 3 years to make one midfield signing.
No, for me, all these Europa League signings, it's not going to bring Liverpool back to the promised land. I have to be honest. The names I'm hearing, all these sort of rumours, like, for me, I respect Liverpool a lot. I'm an Arsenal fan, but I have the biggest respect for Liverpool. But when I saw the Fabinho links to leaving Liverpool, that was the nail in the coffin for me. For me, that sort of highlighted the end of an era. And I'm not saying that to dig at Liverpool, but I just feel like your board don't back you guys enough. And to replace Fabinho with guys like Lavia and Paulinho, who aren't even half of his physique, can't hold that midfield down like Fabinho. It's not going to be what it was. Yeah, it's not going to be what it was done, man. It's not.
Oh no,
Paulinho's good on the ball. He's a very good player. He's a very good player on the ball, but I'm talking about that physicality, The way
Tom,
Fabinho
listen,
holding-
Tom, remind him who you played last season, the first game, who you played against in that midfield.
Oh, Joao Palhinha dominated us like we hadn't been dominated in a long time. The thing is with Fabinho, I understand the
Yeah,
worries,
but last season he had the bad season though.
but that's my thing. It was a bad season last season, but it wasn't a bad season in terms of it wasn't a bad season where you knew it was form. It was a bad season where there's concerns about, is this a long-term thing for Fabinho? Because everything was just individual. It was all, he was a yard slow to everything. His passes were straight. His mentality wasn't there. And if he could, we're not replacing prime Fabinho. This is the thing I've been saying. We're not replacing
Only
prime
29
Fabinho.
though.
We have. If you go look into the stats of how we've used Fabinho, honest to God, I feel sorry for the man. I think he'd done 3 years, missing only 2 games, starting every other one pretty much. He had to do a job at centre back for half a season. You know, we've ran that man into the ground in one of the most, demanding and taxing positions in world football. Right now is the best time to sell because we're not selling prime Fabinho and we're not needing to replace prime Fabinho. We're needing to replace a Fabinho last season that wasn't even better than an 18-year-old centre-back who was put in that position.
Yeah, but from a Liverpool fan's perspective, if I was to just ask you quick here, after the consistency that Fabinho's given you, are you actually ready to sell him off the back of one poor season?
Yes, because we've been bitten too many times by this thing of we often do this thing where we keep hold of players too long, and we've done that with Henderson. Look at his midfield partner Henderson. We've done the same thing. We could have very easily just kept Fabinho. He's tied down till 2027. It wouldn't have surprised me if he'd stayed till 2027, being 33. And if he hadn't been performing for the past 2-3 years, it wouldn't matter because he'd be kept around. This is a change in the right direction. The top clubs are ruthless. Pep Guardiola will get rid of these players when he sees it happening. Is Fabinho almost made a little bit of a scapegoat because it's this first year and there's been bigger ones in the past? Probably it's a little bit harsh on Fabinho, but that's football, unfortunately. Don't feel sorry for him. He's going to get paid a load of money out in Saudi Arabia. He can go live his best life out there. We just need to make sure we get our replacement right.
That's the main thing. It's all about the replacement.
Jermaine, let me ask you a question. You said something earlier on that these Europa League signings. So you look at McAllister and Slobostar, you don't think they're kind of Premier League, Champions League level players when you say that?
No, you know, it is from an Arsenal fan's perspective. After, let's say, being in the mud for all these years, we've gone into this summer and I'm seeing Declan Rice, main Premier League proven, Kai Havertz, Chelsea Premier League proven. And all these sort of links and namings and people are linked to. Then I saw a few things on the Liverpool point of view, and I'm seeing all this Terrace, guys that half their fan base haven't seen play, if we're being honest. Like, I know guys want to act like football experts on Twitter, but we don't really watch these guys on a day-to-day basis. So when I saw the fall off in terms of caliber of signings, I was thinking, yeah, man, this is Liverpool's. They're about to go a bit back. Not to get Liverpool fans angry or anything. I'm not a Liverpool fan hater. I love Liverpool. Like, I don't love Liverpool, but I have respect for Liverpool in it. But I just saw the links to the guys you guys were signed with. I don't watch them on a day-to-day basis. I don't know if you guys watch Liga R or Bundesliga, but I personally don't. So I just thought they're easier targets, easier transfers to do. Like McAllister, like what was that guy's name? McAllister, was it? Yeah, McAllister. That was like 30 million. It's not the hardest deal to do. Meanwhile, I'm seeing Arsenal. There's a top player, but just to compare it to my club where I'm seeing 100 mil, 60 mil, I'm thinking, wow, like Arsenal, we're doing big Champions League signings.
In the same breath,
Arsenal moving different now.
It might be different. It might be different, but I'd rather have McAllister for 35 than Kai Havertz for 65, based on.
Yeah, but McAllister, we have Martin Odegaard, so we're not interested in.
So where's Kai Havertz going to play?
He can be part of the squad. He can play number 8. He can play wherever he wants. So
you spent £65 million on a bench warmer to sit behind Jesus and Odegaard.
Exactly. We're not bothered anymore. We've been
seeing. But you have to take into account what Arsenal are. You have to take into account
we're doing so well. Where me personally, I'm not even bothered because if Partey stays, I'm playing Partey, Rice, and Odegaard anyway. So whether Havertz was 1p, 100p, I'm not really too fussed. It's just more squad depth. I'm tired.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, the thing,
Don's a Chelsea hater who's about to tell us about why Havertz ain't all that. But
I'm not going to talk about Havertz. We've spoken about him a million times, yeah. But back to Liverpool, to take it back a little bit. Liverpool, we know how their owners, run their club. They're not going to splash 105 million on a Declan Rice. Do you know what I mean? They're not going to spend 90 million on a Caicedo. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So Liverpool were always going to shop in that market, right? And just because we don't watch these players doesn't mean that they haven't got scouts that can go out there and identify players that are actually going to fit, Klopp's system. It's not every manager that goes into the Prem and shops in the Prem. Sometimes you have to go outside of the league and find players outside the league that fit the system. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't agree with that with what he said, Tom, because I think Liverpool were always gonna go down that route. Do you know what I mean? Liverpool haven't got they're a rich club, but their owners aren't gonna go spend 105 million on Declan Rice.
It's not about the money, bro. We saw Thiago for free. Like, guys see what Liverpool are on and go that way, bro.
Yeah, but who would you? Okay, so then who would you say Liverpool could realistically go and buy then? That you would say is of Champions League level, realistically in this market.
I don't know. I'm not the scout, but I know if Liverpool were doing well and doing their business, players will go in that direction. But right now we're seeing guys like Declan Rice who wouldn't even look at Arsenal 2 years ago. Wouldn't even look at us. He's even calling. I think him and Arteta were having dinner together, mate. It's all looking rosy over these sides.
Yeah, but that's you, Tom. I'll let you back your club. I'll let you defend your club.
It's just I don't think this type of sign. We've had success with these signs in the past, though. This is where our success is. I don't see the point in celebrating spending £65 million on a player when I could get two players for 30 to 35 who I think would be a better fit. If I was to push it onto Arsenal, I could say that yes, Romeo Lavia might not be ready, and that was a point you made. Romeo Lavia isn't the big names, but I swear Mikel Arteta wants him to replace Partey if he goes.
Now, what you said is true because you guys didn't spend fortunes on Mane or Salah and they done the business. So I agree. It's not all about spending the most money, but I'm just saying my honest opinion. When I saw these Liverpool rumours and compared it to the Arsenal transfers, I thought, yeah, man, we swapped places.
You're in a different state, though. We need our midfield is been crying out for this rebuild or retool for the past 3 years. You just need to add the pieces to. Like, you've got everything there. You just need to add the pieces to push it
Liverpool
on.
always
We need to
needed,
rebuild
like,
the foundation.
But now I feel like there's more things becoming, like more holes becoming bigger. Like, for example, Virgil van Dijk, ACL injury, your front three. Before it looked your attack used to be probably the best in the world, but now I'm not even too sure. Like, there's still Diaz and that probably didn't have his best season, but I think everything's a bit questionable with Liverpool right now. You know what I think it is, yeah, which is what I've been saying to my Liverpool friend. After what was Arsenal's first season at Champions League? 16-17, yeah? You guys came above us by a point. And since that season, you come above us every single season up until last. I feel like roles have now reversed again where we've come above you unexpectedly. And it's just we're about to just...
So for the next 8 years, Arsenal are going to win a Champions League, a Premier League, 97 points, 99 points, near quadruple. Okay, great. I just can't see it happening because I just, even the years where, like...
Maybe not Champions League, but all the other stuff.
You're good. I can see that you're good, but this isn't... In terms of, you're not going up against a City that there was in the past, but you're going up against a City that I think is the most dangerous it's ever been, especially if they can get this window right. And I know we're going to touch on it later about Kvaratskhelia to Newcastle. That's a deal City should be all over because him and Haaland would be immense. With us, compared to you, even last season when we were our worst under Klopp for a good number of years, and you were at your best, we still, when it came down to it, gave you the biggest game of your season, arguably.
Yeah, that's because you're better than us. I know Liverpool. Like, going into last season, Liverpool were meant to challenge.
That gives me the confidence then to say that we're not as far away as people are suggesting. Because if that was done with what was an awful team and a system, I think that game against you was the first time we tried Trent in that inverted role. If we're able to get a full pre-season underneath the belt, get all these new signs in like Szoboszlai, McAllister, Lavia, maybe one or two more, add a centre back in, but it's probably not going to be Colwell now. Get them through the door and get them all settled in. I still think that if you were to compare us to Arsenal, we still have the bigger difference makers.
No, I agree. Even in those games where you,
Yeah,
apart from the first 20 minutes against Anfield, you guys battered us. Yeah, but
it's good.
we spent 200 mil. Remember that.
Chelsea spent 600 million, finished 12th. Money spent doesn't matter.
We're going to get into the Arsenal bit a little bit later. The super chat here for you, Tom, that says, "Yo, Tom, do you see Curtis J as a starter next season?"
Probably not, but I do think that if he has a good preseason, he should definitely be in contention. Start the first game because he's in the best form.
Fair enough. By the way, Pete, welcome to the show, mate. Good to have you back on the top six again. I want to move on to Chelsea, actually. Optimism is the reported phrase at the moment regarding the Caicedo deal. There is industry insiders believe the deal is going to get done for about 80 million. A fairly credible source says that a bid of 65 million was rejected in the last couple of days, and that Caicedo is becoming increasingly frustrated at the situation. Are you frustrated about this, Don? As a Chelsea fan now, is it just a case of pay the money, get it done, or do you think this is more Brighton playing silly buggers?
Listen, me, ideally, I would have wanted Caicedo to come on the trip with us to the USA, and ironically, we're actually playing Brighton like in pre-season. So I don't know whether it's going to be a Chelsea player at that point. It's getting to the point now where it's like, come on, I just want it done. Do you know what I mean? I said 2 weeks ago, I reckon it's quite close because what came out is that we want it done before we actually go on tour to America. But I don't know whether it's Brighton, dragging their heels because of the whole Colwill situation. I don't know if we're dragging our heels a little bit because of the sales. I don't know what's going on. Do you know what I mean? But as it stands, it's taken a little bit too long. I do think it's going to get done, but ideally, I wanted it to get done before we actually go in pre-season. I want Caicedo to come into the team, start training and actually implementing the style of play that we're going to be playing. Come the season, come the start of the season. So for me, in terms of preparation for the season, ideally, I wanted him to come before we travel. But if he has to miss a game or two, it is where it is. At least we're going to get it done. But for me, yeah, it's taken a little bit too long. I would have thought it would have been done by now. But again, it's a positive update that we're up in the money. That sounds like hopefully it should be accepted because we've been going back and forth now for over a month now. So I'm just hoping it will get done within the next week. I'm hoping for a good update this week coming.
Yeah. When do you? I mean, also just been announced just now that Wesley Fofana has not travelled with Chelsea to the USA. He's got another injury.
Jesus.
To his knee. So Wesley Fofana out. And I suppose with Chelsea, the talk's all good. There's actually a report from Ben Jacobs today that Pochettino has impressed everyone by his demeanor and open door policy. They've been working harder. The fitness levels are higher. We typically hear this about every new manager that comes in. And sometimes you look at Eddie Howe at Newcastle, you look at Ten Hag at Man United, you see a difference. Is there a sense amongst Chelsea fans that you're on the road already to a significantly improved season? Or is there still a lot of skepticism because, yes, you've sold a lot of the dead wood and got rid of players that wanted to leave, but you really haven't, with pre-season a week in, the tour starting, no new signings? Is that every week, is it just becoming more and more of a concern for Chelsea fans?
Yeah, I think for me, I've got PTSD because obviously last season we went to America and we just weren't prepared. Do you know what I mean? We got smoked 4-0 by Arsenal. We just weren't prepared. When you looked at us and the fact that we were traveling state to state, that's when obviously Todd Bowley came in. You could see the lack of preparation, and it actually went into the season as well. So Chelsea fans, what I'm seeing online and just from a few people I'm speaking to, we are a bit annoyed that there hasn't been incomings in time for preseason because again, we've still got quite a lot of PTSD of how bad preseason was last year. But we just have to see what happens this week. It's another week of business, so we just have to hope that something will happen. And even if these new signings have got to join us in America a little bit later on, it is where it is. Koulibaly did the same thing last season. Like we signed him when he was already in America, and he linked up with the rest of the boys. And whoever we're signing, they're still going to be training with their teammates right now, keeping fit. Obviously, they won't be playing with their new teammates, but it will still be good for them to be keeping physically fit. You know what I mean, with their old team. So right now, yeah, it's a bit annoying. But we just have to be patient. There's not much we can do. We just have to wait. As annoying as it is, but we definitely have PTSD because last season it wasn't good for us. Pre-season was terrible. It was abysmal, in fact. A lot of players have come out and said how bad pre-season was last year as well. But one thing I'll say with Poch, he's coming already. Aubameyang, he's coming back to training on Tuesday. He's been told that he's not traveling to America. You know, you've got separate groups now. You've got Hudson-Odoi. He's training with a different group, which is something that Graham Potter wasn't doing. Do you know what I mean? He wasn't separating the groups to make sure that you understand that you're part of the team and you understand that you're not.
Mm-hmm.
Now Poch has come in and made it very clear who's part of the plans, and that, you know, if you're not coming on tour, we're looking to get rid of you. So I've seen a few links with Aubameyang to Marseille. Hopefully, you know, he gets that move, but it looks like the wages are going to be a problem because we pay him 160k a week, which is a bit of a madness, to be fair. But yeah, Poch it's looking good, and a few things that are coming out. It sounds like the players have been working a lot harder than what they did the whole of last season. Everyone knows Poch is all about fitness, high intensity. So yeah, I mean, when I'm watching the videos and I'm watching the clips and I'm seeing them in the gym and stuff, we look more serious now. Do you know what I mean? Things aren't looking like a joke anymore. We're not looking like a youth club anymore. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's what it is, man. It's good. It's good. It's looking good, but incomings need to start coming in now.
What are you saying, Pete? I see a few some facial expressions during that, bro.
No, because I can understand that a lot of that. You're talking about your preseason last year and how unprepared you were. We've had many years of that in Newcastle, so I know what that's all about. But look, for me personally, I think you've got a quality manager in Poch. I think he's gonna get it right. For me, I think last time I was on here, I mentioned the same thing. Is that with Chelsea, you've just got to be prepared that next season you might just not necessarily blow up. Like, you may well have a title tilt, you may well push for top four, but you may well also be fighting for like Europa Conference, and it's about Chelsea fans having patience with that, because I think the next season after that, I think you'll be in the serious conversation, because they've had a year to work with the players that are currently there. The system's in place. They'll know what he wants. They'll know what he expects. They'll know how to play it. And then it will just be fitting players that fit to that system. It's all part of a process. And I just think, you know, with Chelsea, from an outsider's point of view, it'll be interesting to see actually how they kind of, you know, how they get on this season. I think a lot of teams will be watching them. They've spent a lot of money, but they've now got a manager that knows how to put a team together. He did it at Tottenham. Didn't quite win a trophy, but he put a team together that was exciting to watch, that high intensity, high press, like you talked about. So yeah, I think you know, you've got all the right kind of things there. It just needs to come together. But we've still got holes to plug. Do you know what I mean? We need to bring in Caicedo. Even after him, Cherky is someone that we're looking at. We spoke about him on the last show, Terry. He's a good addition if we bring him in. Potentially might be bringing in a striker as well. If we don't get Osimhen, you know, for me, it has to be Tony if we don't bring in Osimhen, you know. But
you signed that Brazilian guy, right?
Which one? There's quite a few.
Yeah, he signed some.
You stole them all off us, man.
Oh yeah, we signed.
We were after first.
Oh, Gabriel. Is it Gabriel? His name's Gabriel.
Gabriel's the first one.
Santos.
Yeah.
Yeah. We signed him. He's gonna come to America, but he's most likely going to get loaned to Strasbourg, so the club that we just bought.
650 million host to still plug. Is that what you said, Don?
Listen, it's a whole rebuild. You need to spend. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You guys have spent what, 700 million under Arteta?
650 million and host to plug.
Yeah, there's still a few more things to do. Do you know what I mean? We've brought in over 200 million already in sales. We sold someone else. We sold someone else today. We sold Ethan Ampadu. He's going to Leeds on a permanent basis.
I believe he's still there.
He's still about.
Yeah.
I honestly thought he left about 10 years ago.
No, do you know what? I feel sorry for him because he got brought in as a 15-year-old from Exeter. He was playing first team football, but again, under Roman, he was mismanaged a bit. Do you know what I mean? He made a few appearances. I think he made 7 appearances in the first team. But it just hasn't been great for him. So hopefully he does well at Leeds. Because he hasn't been managed well at Chelsea, to be fair. But that's another person out of the door. So we've got a lot of money.
Just real quick though, I look at your midfield and I just think it's so bare bones. So bare bones at the minute. Like I might have forgotten someone, but I know you've got Enzo Fernandez still at the club and you've got Conor Gallagher still at the club. And I can't think of anyone else after that.
You've got Santos, you've got Caicedo. He's probably going to go on loan. You've got Carney. Carney's Caicedo. Do you know Caicedo?
So three kids. So you got Gallagher, who's crap. Fernandes
No,
and 3
I like
kids.
Gallagher actually.
Hey,
I
Tom,
think
Gallagher's probably going to get replaced by Caicedo if that ends up happening, though. You have to keep that in mind.
That's
Yeah, no.
fantastic. That's fantastic. Your midfield is still way too bare bones, then.
It is.
Way
It is.
too
You're
bare
right.
bones.
It's right now. It's if you break it down, I think the midfield going into the season is probably going to be Caicedo and Enzo as a double pivot. Then you're going to have Nkunku in the 10, most likely. Potentially, you might even play up front if we're bringing a Cherki. Then Cherki might play in that hole in behind. And then you're going to have probably Carney on the bench. Gallagher up in the air. He might get sold. But we're still apparently looking at Lavia. We're still interested. We're still looking at that. You never know. You got Andre Santos, like I said. A lot of the players on the bench are quite young. So we've got Andre Santos, you've got Carney, Caicedo, like I said, he's probably going to go out on loan. Apparently Leicester won him. He was really good. He got player of the tournament for the under-20s World Cup. So yeah, he looks really good. But I think he's going to get sent out. So you're not wrong, Tom, in terms of like looking at our midfields. There's not a lot of experience in there. Obviously, we've had to get rid of pretty much everyone. But again, we might even bring in another 2 midfielders after we bring in Caicedo.
I just don't think you can move off from your midfield after Caicedo. I don't think you can go and address your striker until you've sorted this midfield, because Enzo and Caicedo was good. Having nothing behind them but kids is a recipe for disaster for all parties, because you're playing with fire in terms of injuries. You're playing with fire in terms of fitness. What if Enzo Fernandez goes down? Because we know that other midfielders are rough against him because he's good. If he goes down with a 2-month injury and it's on Carney Chukwuemeka to go in a pivot alongside Caicedo for 2 months, you're in real trouble. You cannot leave this midfield alone. You have too many holes to plug in one window. You have to go and solve the massive gaping hole in the wall that has been left because you've removed all the bricks before you go and put the window in. That you've been.
But don't forget, Tom, we've only got 1 game a week. Do you know what I mean? We've only got 1 game a week. There's no point in stockpiling all these midfielders. And then what was the point of bringing in the Santos? Do you know what I mean? We've got to see how everyone does in pre-season, because Santos, he's a player. He's
acclimatized to the Premier League, but he is quite
exactly
and
that. So he's one that we're looking at. Poch apparently might give him a chance depending on how he does in pre-season. So I think we can only judge our midfield at the end of the window. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they've got quite a lot of players. Like I said, Cherki can play down the middle and he can play on the right as well. So we can only look at our midfield at the end of the window.
I think what's interesting with Chelsea, pre-season isn't the ultimate barometer for clubs, but I think when you're in a situation like Chelsea where you have your worst season in 30 odd years, how you perform in pre-season, I think it will be a fairly big indicator. And if you guys are looking raggedy like you were last year, easy to play through, because you will have that, it's a confidence factor. If you start the season with a lack of confidence, it could be hard for these young players to pick it up. So I'm very intrigued to look at how Chelsea play. There's some breaking news that's come through. I don't know what poses the question, because we'll talk about Chelsea's midfield and who they're looking to buy. But according to reports from Sky, Bayern Munich are willing to listen to offers for Goretzka for between 34 and 42 million.
He's
a couple of years ago, this guy was rated as an absolute baller, a top-class player, especially when he put all that weight on. Would any of you like to see Goretzka move to your club?
Nope. I look at Bayern Munich as one of them clubs, as them ones who, if they have an elite player who doesn't want to leave, they don't sell the elite player who doesn't want to leave. They just keep them around. So if Bayern Munich wants to sell him, if Bayern Munich are open to offers for him, then there's something wrong there. Because why wouldn't one of the top clubs in Europe want to keep him around? I don't know who else they've got at the minute to replace him. I mean, Kimmich would start anyway, so it can't be Kimmich. I'm drawing blanks. Musiala, maybe you drop Musiala a little bit deeper. These clubs like Bayern, I have like 3 or 4 clubs in the spectrum. Bayern, Real Madrid, and Chelsea were another one that for years were one of these clubs which, if they had an elite player who didn't want to go, they kept the elite player around. They just didn't sell him because top class.
I disagree. I think Bayern right now, you have to look at who else they're trying to sign. They're trying to sign Harry Kane. They've been in that debacle for time. Maybe they're just trying to get cash. If they were just trying to get rid of a player, they wouldn't be listening to offers. They would be putting them on the transfer list and for very little money. You have to remember that 40 million is not like, just take the player. It's still some type of cash. So I think they're just listening to offers. And if they get an offer, they're going to take it because they're trying to buy Harry Kane right now. But I don't think it's that he's rubbish. I would take him. I'd take him. But I'm a Tottenham fan and our midfield is not the best.
Listen, to add to add to that as well. A few people in the chat have put that apparently West Ham are interested. Now, if you know a team like West Ham have got 105 million to spend, then you're going to put players their way, regardless of whether you want to keep them or not, because you know you can maximize how much money you're going to get from that. So, and then someone else is quite nicely put in there that, and they're saying he's going to Leipzig, which is likely, but Xavi Simmons. If Xavi Simmons is available and he's going to be loaned out from PSG once he signs for €6 million from PSV, going back to that club, which is an absolute disgrace, by the way, steal of a deal. He's then going to be loaned out for the season. What better way than replacing someone like him and getting Xavi Simmons in and screwing over Leipzig in the process, whilst getting Harry Kane over? Because the amount of money that Bayern Munich are going to generate getting someone like Harry Kane in, it's all going to be worthwhile in the end. So I personally wouldn't have him. I think he's a position that Newcastle are looking at, and that's what we want, because I think it's looking like that Tonali and Bruno are going to play in the 8s. But for Newcastle are looking for younger players. He's 28. We're looking at players like sort of anywhere 20 to 24 years old for that.
What's his best position, by the way, Goretzka? I know he's a midfielder, but what's his best position?
I think
does anyone know?
He's done the majority.
He plays in different positions, but I think he generally plays deeper. I could be wrong, but
by the way, on Xavi Simmons, does anybody know, like, is he officially going to Leipzig? Because, like, a few hours ago, I heard that PSG were getting ready to do a possible swap deal plus cash for Harry Kane.
What?
PSG?
Why would you do that, though?
I don't know. I wouldn't accept it personally because we just signed James Maddison. But I saw that on Twitter.
Like the only swap deal you should be entertaining is one where you get a good striker in return. Otherwise, you should just be going for full cash.
It's
for
different, Tom,
exactly.
because
£50 million plus Anthony Martial, job done.
because
what we'll do, we'll give you Maguire and McTominay as a make weight as well.
Don't Tottenham want Maguire as well? That could probably knock the price
we
down
don't
as
want
well.
Maguire. That was some fake report. But apparently, what's this guy's name? He's a Tottenham fan that goes on the Talk Sport. This guy, I forgot his name. But you were saying he wants Harry Maguire, and apparently West Ham want Harry Maguire as well. I don't think it would fit personally, because I think Harry Maguire fits a 3 at the back system, and we're gonna play 2 at the back now. So it makes no sense why we would sign him. But I don't know. I wouldn't really listen to the Xavi Simmons thing. But you have to take into account that Harry Kane is not just a striker that bags in goals. He plays 2 roles. He's a most creative player. Probably not now because we've got James Maddison. But he brings creativity and he brings goals. So when you sell Harry Kane, you don't only have to sign a striker that can score goals. You have to sign a creative playmaker and a striker.
You've signed a creative playmaker already.
You've got that
I know, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I know. That's why I wouldn't sign.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Kane. In terms of Maguire, you kind of brought him up there. West Ham have made an offer today, a loan offer with I think no option to buy. Man United have said no, but he's going to go now, isn't he? He's had the captaincy stripped by Erik ten Hag. Can anyone imagine him staying at United now?
I would love that.
He's shameless, He's got no self-awareness. Like, it's I don't know what type of deluded world he lives in, and everyone's seen the clips of him training, doing the personal stuff that like AWB was doing last season. But he's literally his 5th choice, right? Because even Luke Shaw is like before him in the pecking order. So for me, if he's got any respect for his career, he would move on and just go somewhere where he's going to start week in, week out. Because he's a good player at a lower level. But at United, I think that boat's sailed now. Do you know what I mean? United, they're onto, bigger things. Do you know what I mean? They're onto a new era now. Like, Maguire shouldn't be a part of that. And taking that captaincy away from him kind of represents what he needs to do next. He needs to move on. So if he decides to stay, that just says a lot about him. I don't know whether it's the money. I don't know what's going on there. But he needs to move on.
It's the ego.
I think there's a couple of things. I think there's a couple of things with Harry Maguire. One of it's pride. Pride in the fact that he's been the captain at Man United. He's been the main centre-back. He was signed for big money. And all of a sudden, he's just been discarded. And he wants to... He believes that Man United are going that way. And he wants to claw onto it, even if it's just playing bit part to try and win something in this last season. The second thing is that he knows there's Euros just around the corner. And he, in his mind, might not feel that he can take the risk by going to West Ham. There's no guarantees West Ham are going to have a good season. If they go downwards, it's going to affect his position. Just like Calvin Phillips, for example, he barely kicked a ball last season, but still got into the World Cup squad and was still a part of things. He knows that even if he's still in and around things at Man United, he'll get into that Euro squad and he'll probably start.
I don't know about that, though, you know, because look, a new player now. You got Colwell now.
I personally want playing. You're right. You're absolutely right. But you've got to look at Gareth Southgate's history. Gareth Southgate sticks to who he knows, and he has blinded loyalty to the players that probably shouldn't be in that team. So for me, I genuinely think come next year that Harry Maguire will be massively in that conversation to start alongside Stones. I genuinely believe that.
One thing I'll say though, Pete, on that England point, right? It will be detrimental for Harry Maguire to stay at United because number one, he doesn't get into that 11, right? He's not part of Ten Hag's plans. It's very clear that he's no longer part of the plans, and he's not the captain anymore. Number one, why would you want to stick in that environment where you're not wanted? Do you know what I mean? You're not wanted, and you're sticking around for what, right? Euros. When you're talking about the next tournament, obviously it's the Euros. Colwell has pretty much been not, I wouldn't say promised, but Gareth Southgate's pretty much said to him, look, if you're playing regularly, we're going to look at you. And realistically, he's going to get a lot of game time because Badiashile was still injured. Terry just said Fofana's injured again. Do you know what I mean? He's going to get a lot of game time there. So if Harry Maguire stays at United, it doesn't matter if Gareth Southgate likes picking the players that he trusts and he knows. It's going to get to that point now where he's literally not playing any games and Levi's starting week in, week out. Levi's the player that he is.
I agree with you.
We said that about Tomori, and we've said that about Gahey, and we've said that about three to four other England centre-backs who've been in and around the squad the past 3 years, and none of them have been able to break through the Harry Maguire duct.
But the difference is the only thing is though, if he goes to West Ham, then I would have the same take that you guys have in terms of trusting him because he'll be getting game time at West Ham. He'll be playing week in, week out.
He didn't play last season at United, and he started every single game in that World Cup.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, but it's a new season. You get it? It's a new season.
Because he's better than all those guys you named. All the Tomoris where he's better. Maguire's better than him. I'll be honest.
Nah,
he is.
Nah,
he is.
I wouldn't say he was better, but I think he's more trusted with
he's trusted for a reason
than any of those players because he's played in big competitions for them, and he's played whenever he. To be fair, he very rarely has a bad game for England in the big competitions.
That's what I was saying.
This is why I genuinely believe that the blind loyalty will come back again. Just like he did with Phillips. Phillips had no right to go to the World Cup.
It's because he fits a back three.
But because of that, but because he was at Man City and because he'd had history with England, he took him. And you know, he got minutes here and there. But what I'm saying is I genuinely believe it will happen with Maguire. And that's why I think Maguire might well hold on to it. Should Harry Maguire start for England? I don't think so. I think there's a couple of them that you've mentioned should be given the opportunity to play. But Gareth Southgate's proven over the years, like he did it with Mount when other players were knocking on the door. He kept playing Mount. Mount weren't necessarily playing well, and he persisted with him. And he does that with certain players, and that's just the way it is. But I genuinely believe that Gareth Southgate will say that, okay, you'll come into this tournament, you'll play this tournament, but this will be your last. And I think Harry Maguire knows it. So I think he's trying to hold on one more year, and then he'll leave after the Euros and go and see out his career doing what he needs to do.
Just on this, I would say this: that all the news is he's going to fight for his place. He wants to stay. That changed. All the news changed dramatically as soon as it was revealed that he had his captaincy taken away. It went from fight for his place, loves being. I know his own statement says he's going to fight and work hard. He has to say that. But all the media report came straight out. He'll look for a move away. His mindset has now changed. He'll leave Man United. There's been so many United fans that have cried like babies over the news of United are holding out for 50 million and they're not looking to actively sell him. Of course we are, but we're not going to publicly state that. It's like the Amrabat news. The Amrabat news is so funny for me to watch. People are like, oh, Terry, but Fabrizio's mentioned it about 5 times. But he keeps saying it's not a priority. Other players have got to be sold first. The wage bill's got to be reduced. Then they may come in. Well, of course, because if Man United turn around and say, we want Amrabat, but we've got to sell first, or he's a priority, price starts going up, and players that are trying to buy our players, the clubs start bidding less because they know that you're desperate to move people on before you can buy another main target. But it works in reverse. If you start letting clubs know that you're desperate to get rid of Maguire, they'll offer you less money. And we've done that so poorly for a decade now. We let Danny Welbeck join Arsenal, and Arsenal wanted him for £15 million. It's ridiculous. We allowed Chicharito to join Leverkusen, and he actually did really well there in his first 2 seasons. He joined them for a pittance. Should have easily moved for £25 million because the players of his level going for that amount of money, you reinvest it. So for me, I think Kane will move. I do. And then I think, not Kane, sorry, Harry Maguire will move. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I think he will. It looks like Fred's on his way out of Man United. West Ham have inquired as well about Scott McTominay. So I think there's a chance he moves on. And then I think that's when Man United then move into that realm of bringing in an Amrabat or somebody of that level. I think that bid will go in. And no, I know I've had a bit of stick online for it today, but stand by. I think if we've got Onana, we've got Mount, we bring in Amrabat and Højlund, I think Man United are going to have a very, very good season next year. We could even challenge for the Premier League title. I think that
you have to challenge. You have to challenge. 200
have
million last year, 200 and plus million last year, and another 200 million now. You have to.
That wouldn't be 200 million on those four.
But you've been linked with Disasi as well.
It'll be about 150 to 200.
Yeah, he looks good as well. So you know when you say we have to challenge, what I'm asking you, I'm not like talking about other people here. When did you, in your start of the second season under Arteta, demand Arsenal challenge for the Prem? Like, were you consistent in terms of that?
When we first got Arteta, I believe his first signing was Pablo Mari, about 5 million. I think United's first centre-back signing was Ten Hag's old player in 60 million, Martinez. So it's two different objectives, two different clubs, two different budgets. United are bigger than Arsenal. You guys spend like City, but have expectations like Arsenal, and I don't know why.
So I don't think we do. So for me, I don't disagree with you. I'm just trying to understand your own personal logic. I think Man United should be looking to challenge next year. I don't believe we'll win the league. As of right now, it would take a Harry Kane on top of that for me to believe we could do it. And the reason I don't think we can quite do it yet, and look, I might change my mind when we all start kicking balls at the beginning of the season. City are still the favourites, and you've got Arsenal that are ahead of Man United and have just gone out and done record transfers. And I think they're going to go to another level. But I don't think anyone's winning the Prem next season with any more than 91, 92 points. And I think Man United can do what we did last year again, but improve on that by 15 points. And that puts us into a title race. Logically, like the logic that people think Man United can't improve is crazy. It's either one of two things. We either won't improve on last season because we did overachieve last year and we weren't that good and we did spectacularly well. But the same fans that are telling me we're not going to improve are the same people that said, well, you should have been expecting to come third last year because your manager inherited a brilliant squad and spent 200 million. So are we brilliant? And are we going to add on top of that brilliance? Or did we punch well above our weight last year and won't be able to echo that 2 seasons running? This is where football fans and their agendas end up looking stupid because both those things can't exist at the same time. It's either one or the other with Man United. It can't be both because it becomes a bit of an oxymoron. And for me, Man United, if we get those 4 signings, so it doesn't have to be Amrabat, but someone of his quality in that midfield, I believe we'll challenge next year. I don't think we'll win it, but I think we'll challenge next year. And I'm very excited about the direction that Ten Hag's taken us in. I've got my skepticism of whether or not the Glazers will allow us to keep moving in the right direction, continue, because you have to continue to invest always. Look how good City have been for 7 years, but they're still looking to drop another 100 million on one player this summer. You have to continue to invest, and hopefully Man United will. But yeah, I'm really happy with it. I think Man United are doing bits.
You know, I agree with what you're saying, but from last season as well, I don't think there was much in it in terms of quality and squad between Arsenal and United. So, in my opinion, if we can do what we're doing and United are spending more money than us, maybe not this summer, but there's no reason for you not to also be there. Even if you look back at the games where we played each other, you beat us once, and the other game we literally just about beat you. Well, we were convincing over the game, but we scored late to win that game. So when I look at United, I feel like their expectations shouldn't be as low as they are. Erik Ten Hag should have pressure on him to deliver at United. You can't be doing this League Cup stuff to try paint over the.
I'm seeing Man
Mm.
United fans on Twitter today talking. We'll be lucky to come top 6. I'm staggered. I don't understand where the lack of confidence has come. We've just gone and signed one of the best goalkeepers in the world, especially
left
what he
back,
does,
SDM.
especially what he does with the ball at his feet. We're gonna have it's gonna be the second year of Lisandro Martinez and Rafael Varane, so the partnership's going to improve. We've got Casemiro in the middle, and we're gonna add at least 2 players to that midfield. I think the likes of Garnacho, Antony as examples will be better next season. Rashford is starting the season off with his confidence completely back. Bruno had a brilliant year. I don't see why he's going to drop off as an example. I think we'll utilize, if Amrabat or a player like him comes in, with Mount being here, I think we'll utilize Eriksen in his best position, which is further forward, rather than trying to get him to run a midfield. So you'll get his creativity. I believe Højlund will come in and score a fair amount of goals for us. He's not going to do Haaland or Kane numbers. No one's claiming that. But we only scored 56 goals last season. 58 goals in the Prem. I reckon we'll score 15 to 20 more this year. I honestly do not understand the level of frustration, anxiety, and negativity for Man United fans. Again, I'm not saying we're going to leapfrog Arsenal, leapfrog City, leave everybody else behind. I think that's too extreme. But I think we'll close that gap on that title race next year. You're only talking about 5 extra wins. And if you go back and watch our games last year, 3 of our draws alone, we had umpteen chances to put the game to bed, and we missed. We didn't have enough firepower. People were a little bit off the pace, as an example. I just think we'll be better next year, and I don't see why we're going to go backwards. Home form was imperious after the first game. I don't believe that's changing. And listen, I actually think, sometimes it takes other teams to help sharpen you. Liverpool being a little bit better, Newcastle being there now, I think it heightens teams and it'll make them push even harder. And United are going nowhere this season, in my opinion, other than up.
Your man just said it as well. You guys had injuries last season. So that little 5 to 10 point gap, around, was it 9 points, 8 points behind Arsenal, where we had hardly any injuries and you guys had loads of injuries? It could swing. So for me, no excuses for Ten Hag. I'm sorry.
No, but there isn't. But I agree. Listen, as a general rule, there are no excuses next year for Man United. You'll be judged on what we win and where we finish in the league. That doesn't necessarily equal sack him. You have to contextualize everything. But of course, there's pressure. We're Manchester United. We can't be sitting there and talking about, it's okay just to make the top 4. No, I want to win another trophy. I want to progress deep into the Champions League. I want the football to go to another level. And I want to close that gap on whoever's on top. We have to do that. And then I would say the start of next season, as long as we're progressing and we have another good summer, that's when you say, right, I want you to go and win the Premier League now. So title race doesn't mean I think we're winning the league. You never quite know in any given season. You could start, we could have a brilliant start. We could be even better. Højlund could come in and be a revelation and just take to the Premier League like duck to water and start scoring. As an example, Mason Mount could look world-class in the Man United team. And suddenly you think, wow, we can go up another level. We've seen these things happen with clubs before. Players come in, you don't expect too much. And they're suddenly, we gave the example earlier. No one expected Salah and Mane to do what they did at Liverpool. No one, not even Liverpool fans expected that. It would take a kind of a shock like that for Man United to win it. But I believe we can challenge next year, no doubt.
Jermaine, what Terry's basically saying, to summarize that, he's basically saying, don't bring that phase stuff to United. They're not involved in that phase stuff.
I'm not in that phase.
What, the fake stuff?
Phases.
The phase. Oh, the phase stuff. The phase stuff. Oh, Chelsea fan talking. You know me, yeah? Before I used to argue with Chelsea fans. Now I'm not bothered at all about Chelsea.
Oh, here we go. For the rest of the panel, me and Jay are actually boys. Like we know each other away from YouTube and stuff. So we go back and forth. Do you know what I mean? So
to be fair, are you allowed to argue with top half sides, or have you got to worry about
yeah,
Palace?
Oh.
I ain't even gonna chat, bro. I ain't even gonna chat. As a Tottenham fan, I can't even say anything.
Away from it, I wanted to ask about Newcastle. The big report yesterday, Pete, that Newcastle were looking at an £82 million bid for. I can never. Who can say his name right?
Kvaratskhelia.
That's bang on, mate. I've been actually trying to say it properly for about a day now. I've nearly given myself a stroke twice.
I call him KK. I just call him KK.
Yeah, everyone does KK.
KK is good. I just need to make sure I don't slip out a third one because man like me will get in trouble. But KK, yeah. Do you think Newcastle can pull this off?
I'll be honest. I wouldn't listen to the rumors because they're bullshit. And they've already kind of been dampened down from the northeast side of things. Are we interested in Kvaratskhelia? Yes, we've watched him all season. We've had scouts that have been sent to watch him like over the course of the season, so we are interested in him, of course. But for me, you got to pay 100 million plus to get him out of Napoli this year, and I don't think any team is going to do that. If I'm honest with you. What I did say to a couple of the lads, Newcastle lads that I know, I did say, if our trajectory is the same as what we're doing right now, I wouldn't be surprised if Kvaratskhelia's next club is Newcastle. I think at some point we will pay the money to get him, but I don't believe it will be this summer. All the noise is coming over from Italy. Nobody's confirmed it from this side. It was literally one report from one Italian paper, and everybody's jumped on it. And I think everyone's surprised that everyone's jumped on it. But Sky have kind of the guy that reports on Newcastle for Sky has basically said like there's nothing in it. And a few others have said that there's nothing. So I'm not getting too excited about it because I don't believe it's going to happen. But yeah, as a player, he's one of the best in Europe. So he is a game changer. He really is a game changer. If there was some way, some miracle, we could get that deal done and we could get him in at Newcastle, because it's very, very clear that we want Alan Saint-Maximin to leave. Whether Alan Saint-Maximin wants to leave is a different question. But there's been interest with Saudi and various other things. The club want to recoup some finances back, and he's our biggest sellable asset. So I do think that Alan Saint-Maximin at some point in this window will leave. And so that left-hand side needs to be covered. And we have been linked with Harvey Barnes. Hasn't really gone anywhere in the last 2 weeks. Some people question whether it's even true that we're really in for him, whether it's a bit of a smokescreen, which is a lot of talk in the Newcastle circles. It is of these smoke screens, because we had Barella that we're interested in, and then we snuck in and brought Tonali over and used him as sort of a make way. So I don't really know who we're going to get in on that left-hand side if Maxi leaves, but Kvaratskhelia would be an unbelievable signing. I think
Kvaratskhelia is immense.
I
watched him last season tear us apart at the Diego Maradona Stadium. That was a game where Fabinho just looked awful. I think there was a moment in that game where he got the ball on the halfway line, and you know them kids when you play footy on the street who were too good, and he took it past Fabinho, and then turned back round to take a pass for Fabinho again, and then turned back round to take a pass him a third time before actually playing a great pass, which then they scored from. He's immense, but for me, I don't think Newcastle is the move. I don't think Newcastle are going to pay it, for one, because I think it is going to be more than 100 million. But for me, I shouldn't be saying this because I don't want them to do well, Kvaratskhelia should be going to Man City.
Yeah.
Man City should be eyeing that man up as their Riyad Mahrez replacement and having a front three for next season of Kvaratskhelia off the right. Even though he hasn't really played there, I look at his skill set and I go, that can translate. You can work off the right. You're very two-footed. You can make it work. Haaland up front and Grealish on the left with Foden able to fill in wherever. That's a ridiculous attack. And that's an attack that is sound for the next however many years on top of that.
5, 6, 7, easy, mate. That's the thing. And, we're all talking about Man City and how they look a little bit, I don't want to say, look, when you look at the exits, big experience, big winners, big talent all leaving. However, if it's players like KK that are coming in to replace the Mahrezes, then it just becomes almost like for like in terms of the replacement. And look, they've got 100 million because they tried to, they basically offered that for Declan Rice and it didn't happen. So and that wasn't a deal of if we don't get Rice, we'll sign Guardiola. They're looking at Guardiola and Rice. So they've got that circa 100 million available, and that could be who they bring in. And that is, as you say, as a front three, the technical ability, the outputs, and the goal scoring prowess collectively in that front three is, well, there's no real outputs in Jack Grealish, but he's got the technical ability. It's just out of this world. Like it would be ridiculous. But yeah, I agree with you, Nuke. I think it's a year or two too early for Newcastle, if that makes sense, in terms of, you get a back-to-back or 2 or 3 years on the bounce in the Champions League and the money that brings in the additional sponsors, then I think maybe then you'll see players of that kind of ilk. I've got some super chats here I want to go to. It says, with Onana, teams will think twice before pressing. Yeah, of course they will. They absolutely, 110%. There's no doubt about that. They will. LJ Brown says, like Maguire, Cedric is trying the same at Arsenal. Yeah, I did see Cedric say he's going to try and fight for his place at Arsenal, which is an interesting one indeed. This year says, where is the pay the money brigade for? I think they talk about why the way people were telling Arsenal to pay the money for Rice. Why is nobody saying that about Chelsea and Caicedo?
Go on, Dom.
Listen, we don't know the ins and outs of what's going on. I agree with you guys. We should have got it wrapped up because I wanted it done before we went to America. But we don't know what's going on because we've been bickering with them. Like I said, with the Colwell stuff, they tried to bid, 30 million for him. It could be us trying to, drag our heels a little bit. We don't know the ins and outs because we're not sharing much info. It should have been done before we traveled to America to answer that question.
I hear you on that. Some more breaking news as well. It's just been announced that Marcus Rashford has now officially signed his new 5-year deal, £325,000 a week to remain at Man United. He turned down bigger offers from at least 4 Premier League clubs, PSG, Barcelona, and more. So they're saying at least 4 Prem clubs offered him bigger salary than that, plus some European clubs as well. But Rashford now agrees that new deal.
I hope we were one of the clubs that offered Rashford that shows some ambition.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Arsenal were one of the clubs because we know Arteta has been after him for about 3 years. But he signs that new deal after a fantastic season. I see online lots of people saying congrats. There are some Man United fans that are angry. There are some rivals saying it's too much money. What are you saying, Tom? Good bit of business for Man United to tie down Rashford for another 5 years?
Yeah, homegrown talent is always keeps the fans on side, even though I think he's a very divisive homegrown talent. I see a lot of United fans get on his back. He was your best player in terms of a goal scoring aspect last season. He's shown that he can do that multiple times. He's just yet to string 3 consistently. It's always been like 1 or 2 and then a down year. But I think now under Ten Hag, with the right players coming in, you could really see about consistency. But I think he needs that striker coming in. I think he really needs a number 9 that he can build chemistry with that isn't 10 game a season Anthony Martial or Weghorst. But it's a good deal. There's a part of me that doesn't really believe the idea that 4 Premier League clubs offer them more than 325 grand a week because I couldn't name them. Like Chelsea will probably in there, and Arsenal, yeah. But like we can't even afford. Mo Salah to spend 7 years arguing to get 350k a week. We're not going to pay Rashford 325.
Are you saying that David Ornstein's a liar?
I'm saying that there might be. Basically, yeah. I don't believe that there's 4 Premier League
You know
clubs offering that much money.
What I love about this? Every time Liverpool sign a player, your journalists say they mention Man United somewhere in the article that we were interested involved, and you believe that 100%. Every time.
No, because you know me, I'm not part of Communist Liverpool. There's that section that do, and there's the other section which United don't have of the ones where some of your goals might do it, where apparently you've been scouting them for about 17 years since they came onto the kids' footy scene in French Division 4. You've been scouting these players, but look, I just don't believe that 4 Premier League clubs were interested in paying him that much. I can see PSG and the other ones like Barca and that, but 4 Premier League ones, no, not for me. Good deal though.
Maybe. So I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility. Like Arsenal, Newcastle, Chelsea, just to name 3 off the top of my head that could afford. I think you pay Rashford that much money. He's worth so much. But listen, I don't think he's a divisive player at all. The only Man United fans that don't like him are not real Man United fans. They're Martial fanboys that are unhappy that Martial's body's let him down. They take it out on Rashford. True Man United fans see his talent. And to be honest with you, there are on the left-hand side, there are very few inside forwards in world football that are better than Rashford that we could sign. So we can't. I don't think we can get Mbappe. We know he's better. So if he's not attainable, it becomes irrelevant saying he's not the best. I can't think of very many players that play on the left who are better than Rashford technically and will get you as many goals and assists as him that Man United could sign. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head.
I don't know if Man United could sign him, but Son.
I wouldn't sign. I wouldn't swap Son for Rashford ever.
Son?
Just this season, you're just taking that off this season.
No, I'm taking it.
Son,
No, but again, but how old is Son? What, 29, 30?
It's 31 or something like that.
31. He's actually 30 now.
So why?
Went down in
Imagine selling Rashford 24 years of age for a 31-year-old. You wouldn't do it.
But
Realistically, Dan, the only guys that you could replace Rashford with is KK, Mbappe, and Vinicius that are better than him, and they're not attainable right now. So he's right. You can't really. There's no one really,
and that's these arguments always happen. You put, there's better players out there. Yeah, but can we sign them? If you can't sign them and they're not available, it becomes it's like if someone signs a new right-sided winger. Yeah, but he's not as good as Mo Salah. Well, if you can't buy Mo Salah, it's a moot point. It doesn't make any point bringing it up. Actually, Rashford might be 25, maybe not 24. But yeah, look, I think it's brilliant. I'm buzzing as a Man United fan. He'll start the season confident. He'll go to, I think he'll go to an even higher level next year, even more. As the team gets better, so will Rashford. Because typically, your better players are better in better teams. You've seen it, Pete, as a Newcastle fan. Look how much better Longstaff looks in a better team. He actually starting to look like the player he was tipped to be 5 years ago. But when you're in a crap team, you regress.
When he was injured, we missed him at the back end of the season when he was out the team, and that was part of the reason why I think Tonali was our first signing, is because Tonali will be that guy this season. He'll play in that Longstaff role, and we knew we had to upgrade because when Longstaff was injured, like the midfield did not function well at all. We had that bad defeat at Villa Park. We just looked uncomfortable in one or two of the games. It just didn't fit right. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It's like you have to have those players to fit the position. And someone else mentioned Rafael Leao, who is a talented boy.
He just signed a new contract though as well. He just signed another.
Yeah.
He's also, I'll be blunt, he's not better than Marcus Rashford. I don't think he's better than Rashford. He might be better at dribbling, as an example. And I know some people they'll take one attribute or one ability and go that makes him better. But again, I wouldn't. If someone said now you can have Leao for Rashford as a straight swap, I wouldn't do it. I would consider KK, but that's not because of ability. That's because he's got great outputs. Unless you're gonna, you need the outputs with it. If the outputs are not there, listen. So Maximum is a better dribbler and got better technique on the ball, then better skills maybe more than technique than Rashford. But I wouldn't take 10 St. Maximin for one Rashford. Doesn't score enough. Doesn't create enough. Doesn't cross the ball well enough. Doesn't in terms of an output that leads to goals that wins games. That isn't there. You need it, and there's very few players in the world that are better than Rashford. It's as simple as that for me.
The only other realistic guy I can think of on that left is Mitoma. That's probably it. But again, I
would definitely not switch.
I wouldn't do it. Better
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying he's the only realistic. He's the only realistic one. Leao just signed a new contract.
I know.
I think Mitoma's incredibly overrated.
No, I get your point.
I can't believe Mitoma keeps getting put in these conversations with the likes of these elite wingers. Like I'm good. I think he's so overrated.
He needs
great.
I mean, he just needs. Let's see what he does next season. He needs another year of that level. It's a bit like, listen, there were people. Almiron had a brilliant season last year, but I think but he probably has had the best season he's ever going to have in his entire career. Yeah, as an individual, maxed out maybe a little bit, but we will see.
Fell off at the end.
I'll come back to some more super chats in a bit. We've got lots of them. There's some Arsenal ones that are coming up as well. We've got a big one from the Tie Box, Mr. Tie Box. We're going to come back to you soon on that because it's asking a question about top six and where people finish. But I want to speak about Arsenal because Arsenal now have the most valuable squad in the world, valued at 1.21 billion. It's now more valuable than Manchester City's. There's fans now that I've spoken to that are claiming that they are now on City's level. In fact, we have a video. For you to listen to from last night from a very well-known Arsenal fan claiming just this. Take a little listen.
Arsenal or Manchester United?
How far behind are Manchester United? Manchester United
from Arsenal, not City, just from Arsenal.
Bro, understand that if you're talking about Arsenal, you're talking about City also.
So this is what we're now hearing. If you're talking about Man City, you're talking about Arsenal also. They've got the most valuable squad in the world. There are many fans out there that are confident of another title charge. As you've said, Jermaine, you've just done a summer like you would never expect. You've signed the Havertz, you've signed Timber. Of course, you've gone and got Declan Rice. Surely, how much pressure and expectations are upon Arsenal going into next year? And are they now on Man City's level?
That's, to be honest, after this window, that's the pressure is the only slight negative that we can have, because we love Arteta, and after this window and after everything we've been doing, expectations have now risen. So there is a lot of pressure and there is a lot of more expectation. But that squad valuation thing, I think that's based on potential. That's probably having guys like Balogun in there who we value around 40, 50 mil. If you've seen the reports, he isn't a 40, 50 million player. But that's just like squad valuation. And we have a young team who just signed new deals. So their player value will be a lot. So I wouldn't really take that valuation thing in. I'll look at United spend more, talk about their real valuation and Chelsea as well. They're the real criminals in this thing.
See, where I disagree with you, you have to look at spend in terms of manager, but you have to look at valuation, because how much did Saka cost you?
Nothing.
But do you value him as being worth £0?
Okay, that's a one-off example. That's like the Rashford example.
But exactly. So valuation dictates your expectations. Liverpool fans paid £7 million combined for Trent and Robertson, but they are arguably, for a period, they were the two best fullbacks in the league, maybe even in the world. You didn't expect them to deliver. Their expectations weren't at 7 million. Your expectations for Martinelli next season are not that of a 80 million pound player. Your expectations of him are to go and help deliver a title to you. So your expectations have to be based on the valuation of your squad, not just what you spend. It can't be ignored, but you have to look at valuation of the squad and how, it's valued high because they're that good, right?
I accept where we are, though, to be honest. Like, next season, I do expect us to challenge for the title and at least get out the group in the Champions League. Even talking about the Champions League, that's one of Arteta's main issues.
At least get out of the group.
Yeah, at least get out of the group, bro.
Finish second in the group in the Champions League is your minimum expectation. Not like get to quarters, get to semis.
So maybe the quarters, but after last 16, Arteta is not proven in Europe. Go look at his track record in Europa League. It's one of his main flaws. He's not proven in Europe. So I can't start talking about semi-final expectations. I need to see him at least come across 2 legs first. Get over the line with 2 legs.
You've got a squad. If your squad can challenge for the Premier League, then I'm sorry, it should be able to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League.
It's
in Europa. Under Emery, we hit the final. Under Wenger, we hit the semi-final. Arteta's gone out to Olympiacos, Sporting Lisbon, and I can't remember last season. Maybe I think it was Emery himself he went out to. The guy he can't. It's like he struggles to juggle his squad with European nights and the weekend. So I can't then cuss the team and be like, "Oh, your squad's good enough." That's the manager's responsibility to rotate his team, right?
Yeah, but your excuses with Arteta when it comes to Europe has always been your squad's not strong enough. Do you know what I mean? Your squad's not strong enough. Now you've actually improved your squad. Do you get it? If you've got Declan Rice starting, you've got Havertz, who could be a squad player if you start Partey and Rice and Odegaard. You've still got Jorginho, you've got Smith Rowe, you've got Vieira. You've got a heavy squad. So right now,
you've got a lot. I love the way you're naming them, mate. I love it.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? Yeah, I get what you're saying in terms of being skeptical about Arteta in Europe, but by default, Arsenal have to get out of their group. Like
we have to get out of the group.
You have to
but
get out.
I ain't got expectations.
No. I'm sorry. You can't have a Premier League winning squad. If you think you can win the Premier League, that means you have to have a Premier League winning squad. You cannot have a Premier League winning squad that can only get out the group stage in Europe. How much you think it's on the manager or not?
Just went out.
No, how much you think it's on the manager or not? Part of it is on the players as well, because they're the ones who actually do it on the pitch. Whether you think Arteta has an experience in the Champions League or not, if he can win the Premier League, he should be able to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. The squad should be good enough to get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. Having the expectations of a group stage, getting out the groups, it just when you're putting the expectations on you and putting the pressure on you, saying they should challenge next year, and then you're saying, "Oh, well, Arsenal should get out the group."
Tom, that's phase 5. In phase 7, they'll get to the quarterfinals of the Champions League.
Super chat here says Arteta has spent 591 million since he became the Arsenal manager, including the Rice. That's like 149 per season if you average it out. It's a lot of money that's been invested, and of course, context will always be applied. But there are no more excuses. It's deliver or bust essentially now for Arsenal. And listen, I'm not saying it's all Arsenal fans, but when I hear a gal say things like, when you talk City, you're also talking about Arsenal. That is, I don't listen. Some will say Igal don't represent us, and it won't be all Arsenal fans that think that way. Of course not. But Igal will be sitting in group chats with dozens of other gooners all saying the same thing. Because Igal's like that. Igal's a little bit of a hive mind person. Igal kind of will, like, Igal will come on a stream and go, I'm angry we signed Kai Havertz. He'll go to an Arsenal group chat. The next day, he'll be spinning you a yarn about why it's amazing, because he's a little bit like that, Igal. But, I mean, you threw yourself back in your chair, Tom, when you heard Igal say that. Do you think that's far too premature for Arsenal fans to think?
It's offensive to what Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have done. They just won a treble. They just completed football pretty much in England. The only one they didn't win was the Carabao Cup, which he's won 4 times already. It doesn't matter. To say that Arsenal, under Arteta, who have had a reputation, and this is the only reputation they have at the minute, of when the going gets tough, they crumble. Trying to say that you are on the same level as Pep Guardiola and Manchester City, who have just won 3 back-to-back-to-back Premier Leagues. It's just it's downplaying what he's done.
You know what it is?
It's offensive to what he's done.
I think the Arsenal fan just wants respect on Arsenal's name. I don't really. He's not really.
Then you
saying,
go too
"Oh,
far.
we're the same as
You
City."
get the disrespect because you overdo how much respect you want.
I don't understand though, Jermaine.
If you pull so hard one way, it's going to get pulled back even harder the other way.
Jermaine, you were getting on to Tom. You were saying, Liverpool are making Europa League signings. Then you started bigging up your signings, basically trying to insinuate that you're making Champions League signings. But then now you're saying, at least get out of the group. So surely if you lot are making big boy signings like Rice, the minimum you have to get to is at least a quarterfinal of the Champions League. If you look at the teams in Europe, Arsenal are up there. Let's be real, bro.
To be honest, if we do get out of the group and we go out in the last 16 to, let's say, Napoli, it will be nothing shorter than a disgrace. So we should probably squad-wise get to quarter semi, but under this manager, I don't really believe it.
So you don't believe in the manager then?
Not in Europe, not yet. That's one of my personal flaws. I've seen this Europa League stuff is a disgrace. I think some Arsenal fans aren't even scrutinizing him enough for it. They're saying, it's better to just focus on the league. No, Arteta's not going out on purpose. Trust me, he's not.
The Champions League, you have to remember the Champions League is not the same as a league competition. Like the Champions League, we saw it last season in the Premier League, Arsenal competed all the way to the end, right? Because the Premier League, when you win a league title, it's more of like, you had better squad depth, you had a better team. In the Champions League, one day you're off it, you lose, you're out. One game. It's not the same thing. So I agree with
I'm sorry, no, because you don't judge your expectations off of the Champions League on, well, you could do this or you couldn't. You go in there going, my squad can do this, my squad should do this. Otherwise, you're sitting there giving everyone the same chance of winning the Champions League at the start of every tournament because, well, it could be their day every time it's a game. No, the league needs more regular consistency, but you need to be more consistent in the Champions League.
I've got some super chats here. First one from Arsenal Till I Die says, I can't stand rival contradictions. If he says we'll get to the Champions League final, you'll say he's deluded, he's being conservative, and it's a problem. You all claim to have zero European heritage. Make your mind up.
Big up Arsenal Till I Die, man. Thank you for that super chat.
But I just said I expect more from an Arsenal squad who I'm being told can win the Premier League than just our expectations get out the groups.
I hear you on that. This year says you could go to every fan base and find deluded quotes, but no, let's all only highlight what random Arsenal fans say to mayor the fan base and look bad joke. Well, it isn't really about that, you know. It isn't the only Arsenal fan. I've seen many comments in the live chats and many things online of talk on those levels where we're at now. You know, I think I've seen a few gooners online talk on podcasts talk about I think we can win the league next year. If you can win the league, that means you think you're on Man City's level, right? Like or better. So, and we're just having a conversation about it. You know, it's one. If we just didn't talk about things people were saying and opinions that are out there, these shows wouldn't quite work. And I don't think there's anything wrong. I don't think there's anything wrong with Igal thinking what he thinks. He's allowed to. If he thinks they're going to move up to City's level this year, if you actually listen to Igal, he thinks that City are going to have a drop off. So his prediction is very much we're going to get better and City are going to drop off a little bit. So he believes there's almost a meeting in the middle. I don't think his logic's overly off. This year says what the gunner can't admit is that the squad won't have the mentality for the knockout stages of the of the title running, and that's based on experience. Do you think you'll have enough experience next year? You know, if you're in the knockout quarterfinals of the Champions League and in a title race, do you think Arteta and your squad will be able to manage that mentally this season coming up?
I think with the Premier League, 100%. I think they'll be able to get over that, what happened last year. In terms of the Champions League, I will stand by my no expectations. We haven't been in it for 7 years. The current manager hasn't even been the best in Europa, so I don't really have much expectations for it. You guys might have different for me. But in terms of the Premier League, I don't expect us to have mentality issues again. We've already come across that barrier. We should be there and learn from experience this time and understand what it takes. And when the Southampton at home come up, or these lower league clubs at home come up, understand that this game could go left. So I expect them all to use the last season L, let's say, and fire that into their system.
Martin here says, Arteta the only manager with pressure. It's hilarious. Must win the Champions League and Premier League or rivals demand his sacking.
That's why Ten Hag, he cannot get away from no expectations. I'm not having it.
Wait, what?
I don't think there is. I don't think Man United have no expectations on them. I don't know about you, Pete. I don't know about you, like Don. We know that Postecoglou has no expectations, but like, I think there's expectations on everybody's teams and managers to deliver. No, or am I missing that?
There's expectations, but there's levels of expectations. So you could have high expectations winning the Premier League. You could also have expectations of getting in the top 4. So I think everybody has expectations. Like, no fan thinks, all right, if we get relegated, it's fine because I don't have an expectation.
Yeah, I think with Arsenal, it's 4 going on to 5 years as the manager, nearly £600 million spent. Of course, the expectations are different to maybe Ten Hag, who's going into the second year. But go away based on and this is what Arsenal fans have got to learn to accept. When you create the phased approach in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, you're gonna have other clubs that will throw that back at you when you try and put, like, I don't mind there being pressure on Ten Hag, but a lot of Man United fans will push back and go, well, there's hypocrisy there because none of you were demanding titles at the start of your second full season with Arteta, and you've got nowhere to go unless you want to do what you did. Man United are bigger, we're better, we're richer, more famous, expectations are higher. But at the end of the day, I don't disagree. There should be expectations. However, Arteta has to have them on him. He has to have expectations to win the league now after going into his 5th year with £600 million spent. It's too big a club not to.
Yeah. With that phased thing, it's a bit different. Like, let's say this summer we spent 200 million. I feel like Arteta's earned the right to spend that. Eric Ten Hag, well, not just trying to sing out United, but he's walked in with money to spend. Arteta's kind of had to prove himself first before saying, cool, let's back this guy. Even that summer where we spent 120 mil and everyone said, oh, it's the most we've spent. Arsenal spent the most this summer. That was on 5 players. That same summer, Grealish went to the City for 100 million, 1 player. Sancho went to United, 75 million. Lukaku went to Chelsea, 100 million. You guys are all spending 100 million on one guy. We've spread that across 5-6 guys and on like 20-30 mil guys. And people are saying, oh, Arsenal spent the most. You have to apply context. You guys were already made clubs. Arteta picked up Arsenal from the mud, took out Orba, took out Ozil. I was going to the Emirates watching Joe Willock. No offense to the Newcastle fan, but watching Joe Willock in our number 10 position.
See where you're wrong, though. See where you're wrong is you have to contextualize the situation as well. So Arteta's first full summer window was the 2020-21 season, right?
Yeah, but you're missing out January. He had the January window before that.
So he had the January, but I'm just saying from the first full summer when he came in, what you're forgetting is he spent 86 million. That same summer, Man United only spent 83 million. That was the COVID summer. And
but clubs, you bought Fernandes in January before that for 60 odd.
Who?
You did. You bought Bruno Fernandes that January for 60 odd million.
Right. Okay. No, and I understand that, but the previous season before that, you spent 160 million pound on players. You spent but before Arteta. So you spent ready-made teams. The summer before Arteta came in, you dropped 30 million on Saliba, 27 million on Tierney, 80 million. Yeah, but that was your club's decision. Like you still invested the money. He could have stayed, right? The point is, you spent 80 million on Pepe. You bought, you bought in David Luiz. You guys spent 160 million during the season that Arteta came in. His first full summer, he got 86 million. That same summer, Man United spent 83 million. The following year, you spent 167 million. Man United spent 142 million. So 2 years of Arteta, you've actually spent more than Man United so far. The following year, it's not by acceptance. It's a fact. The following year, you spent 192 million. Man United spent more than you that year. We spent 143 million pounds. This summer so far, you've spent 231 million. We've currently spent, we will include Onana, 100 million. So far, since Arteta has been the manager of Arsenal, you've spent more money than Man United.
But you're not including Bruno in January, though. So it can't be true.
But I can't. So you want me to add the Bruno money from the January?
Because if you're saying so far, Arteta joined Arsenal in October 2019. Bruno came after that. So whilst we're running around,
hang on a minute. We shouldn't even be doing that anyway. Why are we including players that Erik ten Hag didn't sign? Are we going to include all the players that were signed before Arteta arrived as well?
Now I'll give you that argument with the managers, because Erik ten Hag has only been here for a year. So like you said, there's guys like Maguire.
We're going to compare. Yeah, managers versus managers. My manager spent about 260 million, and yours has spent 600 million nearly. But yet you think they should have the same expectations?
I think what Erik ten Hag walked into a much better team than what Arteta had. And whether you guys want to agree or not, I don't know. But we were not good.
And that's a fair opinion. That's a fair opinion from you. But we had our work before he arrived. We had our worst season in 40 years.
Statistically.
Okay? Yeah. Well, but that's would you agree that the league table dictates who the best to worst teams are?
Okay, cool. But do you actually believe when Erik ten Hag took over, you guys were in a similar position to Arsenal?
I predicted we would, at the start of last season, I predicted we'd come 7th.
Okay, then fair enough.
Like I can only be intellectually honest about what I think. I don't really care what other people said. I don't know what you said at the beginning of last season, but this is why I also, by the way, when I said we overachieved last season, I got called out. Everyone said, no, you had a brilliant team. All the people saying we didn't overachieve predicted us coming 7th, 8th, 9th. There's got to be some intellectual honesty here when it comes to these debates. And by the way, I'm very happy for there to be expectations on my manager. I'm just pointing out that Arsenal fans have got to understand that there are expectations on Arteta now. There's nowhere to hide. And listen, I've praised you guys for it. You're dropping 200, 300 odd grand a week contracts on people. That's big boy stuff. When you start doing that, it's win big trophies or it's failure. And doesn't mean or sack him. If you don't win a trophy this year, you've failed. If Man United don't win a trophy this season, we've fouled. If Liverpool don't win a trophy this season, they've fouled. If Spurs don't make it in the top 8, they've fouled. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I know everyone's got different levels here, but I'm just saying, like, it's true. I've got some more super chats here. This one says, Terry, bring up the squad they both inherited. But then you start going into the realms of, well, let's see. Do you know what's really funny when you do that? You have to go back to what people said about it back then. Because I remember, for instance, when we won 2 trophies under Jose, we were all buzzing about the following season. We thought we could go on to brilliant things. When I now go back and look at that team that started the Carabao Cup and the Europa League final, it's like, oh, God. Because it went on to flop and it went on to foul. So you look back at it and you don't look at it as very good. At the beginning of the season, D, everybody said Man United's squad was trash. We suddenly can't go, now actually it was great because it achieved something. At the beginning of the season, we were being laughed at last year. That's the truth. Arsenal were being laughed at. There's no doubt about it as well. There is no doubt about it. But we can't pick and choose the way we do those things. But equally, listen, I'm not saying there shouldn't be expectations on Ten Hag. I'm just stating there has to be after 5 years. There has to be on Arteta. And I don't think that there should be a debate there. Terry, your prediction is not an objective merit. But what about the fact that barely a single pundit put us in the top 4? Barely, I don't remember a YouTuber putting us in the top 4, really. Like, it's not just my metric. When Man United were predicted to be nowhere near the top 4, not to win a trophy, to not make the Champions League, to achieve all those things and an FA Cup final, especially after those opening 2 games.
Is this based on the season that just went?
Yeah.
Because for me, I'm seeing United having £150 million worth of wingers in Sancho and Anthony. The best of the best in Rashford. Casemiro, the best DM, 70 mil. Bruno Fernandes, you already know, his output speaks for himself, around 60 million. You got squad players in Fred, that's around 50 million. The defense, you got Martinez, which is Erik ten Hag's man, Champions League,
let me just interrupt you for a second. At the beginning of the last season, though, this is what you're moving the context. At the beginning of the last season, everybody was predicting Lissandro Martinez. They were calling him Lissandro Lannister to be awful because he was short. Now that he's been brilliant, everyone's like, yeah, but how could you predict him not to do well? He was great. But last summer, everyone said it would foul. Rashford last summer, people said he got to send him to PSG. He's never going to get back to his form. His bad season was being used as the yardstick to say Rashford's finished. Nobody was saying Rashford was amazing last year. This is what I mean. We are judging it now. We're rewriting what we thought a year ago. That's why I'm saying, like, you can't do that. You have to judge it. You have to go back to the time. Liverpool fans do it always, where they go, oh, Gerrard never played in any good teams. Go back and read the newspaper predictions before seasons begun in Gerrard's era. They were always predicted to be in the title race, win the league, be a brilliant team. It's only now they're fouled, their fans go, those teams are crap. They weren't considered crap at the time. It's only because they underachieved you're saying they're rubbish.
True.
So Man United's played, you know, your rating there, people were saying they were rubbish last season. By the way, Sancho still is. He hasn't delivered for us, but let's move on with some of these super chats here. This one says, Erik ten Hag didn't take over a mess. Pogba, etc., left for a free. Ronaldo snitch alone was huge. Ask Arsenal, Donny, where he predicted we would finish last season.
I can't remember. I picked United, to be honest. I can't remember.
Yeah, so look, you weren't on the show last year, so I'm not going to personally call you out for that. Arteta inherited a Europa League final squad. Yes, he did, and a team that come fifth in the league as well, I believe. There's no way you're claiming that Erik ten Hag walked into a worse situation than Arteta. Now, again, I didn't say it was worse. See, now what you're doing here is a very clear technique in debate that won't wash with me. I didn't say it was a worse situation than Arteta. I haven't claimed that we shouldn't have expectations. I'm simply stating that after 5 years and 600 million, Arteta has to. There's no different. It's crazy to me. Rivals are predicting us to finish 3rd to 5th, but are saying pressure to win the Premier League. Contradiction. Yeah, if anyone says Arsenal crap and then says they have to win the league, again, contradiction. But I'm not. I think Arsenal are very good. So I hear you on that. If they're doing that, Ali, you're absolutely spot on, my friend. Terry, Ten Hag's second season is not the same as Arteta's. And that's fair. But that's, again, but that's why I'm saying we've got to be in the title race. Because I think my manager's better. I think he's built a better squad quicker. And I think he's rebuilt better. So I agree with you. It isn't the same. My manager's better. So my expectations are higher.
You think Ten Hag's better than Arteta?
Yeah, I do.
Fair enough. To be honest, Arteta's novice. He's only just started.
Well, mate, it's not even a dig. I think Arteta's growing brilliantly. I think his football's amazing to watch now. But he's never kicked a ball yet in the Champions League. He's never won a league title anywhere in Europe. He has one domestic trophy, and so does Erik ten Hag. And so, yeah, I listen until he starts.
He's inexperienced.
Yeah. I'm not saying he won't surpass him in the future, but right now, like Ten Hag's got the better CV. This super chat here says, heard something going in certain spaces. Rival fans expect Arsenal to win the Prem or the Champions League or Prem, but don't think we will. What the hell does that even? Yeah, what does that mean? Someone else speak for me. I don't get what that means.
In terms of you can have when we say we expect the title challenge, both teams can't win it, but there's two teams in it. Your squad is at a level where it can do this. But what I expect and what I believe will happen are two different things. I expect my team to win 2 trophies next season, but there's a good chance we won't because expectations and what actually happens are different. Expectations are what you perceive everyone can do in the best case scenario, pretty much. In most cases, it's how ideally it would go. I expect Arsenal, who spent 600 million, who are going into their 4th full season with Mikel Arteta, who has been mentioned in conversations by some Arsenal fans in the same breath as some of the elite managers of the Premier League era. I expect them to now get over the line and win the first major trophy in 20-odd years.
He's generational. That's what they've been saying.
We won the FA Cup in Arteta's first year.
Well done. You've matched Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah, but by major trophy, please highlight Premier League or Champions League. Don't just say major trophy.
Okay.
It makes us look trophyless.
Tevin here says, I just think we are in a no-win situation. That's just it. Rival fans don't rate us, but think we should win. And when we think we can win, we are delusional. I suppose that's what rival fans are there to do, though. You know, I think that's what rival fans are there to do at times.
I don't get this though,
year's-
Terry. Why do Arsenal fans love to do this thing where they need validation? Like, you guys know how good your team is. If you speak to real football guys, they'll tell you how good your team is. Don't let trolls invalidate how good Arsenal are right now. Do you know what I mean? I think this is coming from a place of haters. Do you know what I mean? If you want to sit down and actually talk what you're seeing in front of you, Arsenal one of the best teams in Europe, and right now Arsenal should be competing for the Prem. I haven't heard anyone say like Arsenal should win the Prem next season. But what I've heard is Arsenal are expected to at least compete as a minimum, and then you go from there. That's the absolute minimum. But don't be crying for validation, man. Like, come on, you're better than that.
It's a fair point. It's fair. For me, I don't think anyone expected Arsenal to have the season they had last season, and they deserve to be where they were, fighting for the title. They had an unbelievable season, just missed out. But you know, I always think in the back of my mind, and it goes back to an earlier point that we talked about, is I think certain fans, I think you said it, Terry, certain Man United fans are putting Man United potentially fighting for 7th or 8th next season. I think there's a pocket of fans of all of our clubs that are like that. And the reason being is because I genuinely believe going into this season, there is more competition for those top 8-9 spaces than there ever has been before. Maybe not the top 2, maybe not even the Premier League, because everyone puts Man City out there compared to everyone else. But as we saw last season, it can be all up in the air. You've got Brighton that are likely to improve. You've got Villa that are already spending. Newcastle, we will spend. We've already got Tonali in there. Tottenham are revamping. You know, Chelsea are building something new. Like, you look at all these teams away from the existing ones, and there is a chance. There is a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen with Arsenal. I'm not saying it's going to happen with Man United or whoever. But there is a chance that another team makes the jump next season. Who's to say that Chelsea don't hit the ground running and do what Arsenal did last season and Arsenal take a drop off? Nobody's assured of it, probably other than Pep Guardiola and Man City. Because if you look at everybody's performances over the last couple of years, have either been great or there's been a drop off. Great or there's been a drop off. So I do look at this season going into it, and I do think there is an opportunity for all of these positions to just go around again, and other teams push up and have a great season and others drop off. So, you know, this is what I say. This is not aimed at Arsenal, but Arsenal is the example. They fought for the title last year, fully deserved to. Brilliant. I watched them at St. James's Park. They were outstanding, fully deserved to win that game that day. And I look at that, but I always think to myself, like, can they go again and do what they did last season? Not necessarily go to the next level and win the league. Can they maintain what they did last season? Can they get to March and still be in a title race? They've got the team to do it, but as we already know, every season is different. It's the same with us to a point. Can we go and push for the Champions League next season? That's the big question mark for us. It's the same with Liverpool. Can Liverpool regain that level that they had towards the end of the season, and they put a run of 10 wins together in a row or something like that we've come to expect from Liverpool? Can they go again from the start of the season and do that? It's one of those questions. I think if those things happen, then that top 4 is not going to be the same. Maybe even the top 5 is not going to be the same. It's all going to be different. And, you know, who's to say that because of those teams making an uprise doesn't mean that Arsenal turn Man United over, or Tottenham, or you know Chelsea, for example, might then turn over Newcastle, or might turn over Liverpool or Arsenal this season, and points difference then change, and it makes it into a completely different season very, very quickly.
Just to add to that as well, what I'm going to say as well, like, Arsenal fans, just prepare yourself to come up against teams who are going to set up completely different against Arsenal next season. Do you know what I mean? The season that just went, teams didn't know what to expect, really. Do you know what I mean? Every week would hear one thing after another. Are they going to beat Tottenham? Are they going to beat Liverpool? Do you know what I mean? They beat Liverpool at the Emirates. They beat Tottenham away, home and away, innit, Jermaine? You guys beat them home and away, right? This season. There was hurdle after hurdle. So I think teams now know what to expect from Arsenal. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if you're looking to start that midfield of Havertz, Odegaard, and Rice, boy, I don't know what to tell you.
Just in interest of time, we'll go on. We've got lots more super chats to get through here. This one says Balogun and Partey sold for a total of 90 million. I would be surprised if Arsenal don't go for a top right winger or central midfielder if true. Maybe a cheeky Caicedo approach. Could they could listen? If they raise that much money, they should definitely be trying. Neil Black here says, "I'm an Arsenal fan, but I have tons of respect for what Chelsea are doing. The net spend sounds insane, but we've never seen a squad turnover like this." Is what Neil says. This from Neil Gunadan says also rumored that Chelsea are in for Maguire. I hope so. That'd
Fake
be amazing.
news, man. That's not gonna
That'd
happen.
be amazing. If Arsenal didn't keep Xhaka after his good performance, why would Liverpool keep Fabinho for his poor play last season?
Don't mention Xhaka with Fabinho. That's Fabinho. Listen, don't disrespect Fabinho's name. Xhaka 1-2 good seasons in about 7 years.
It's true. Martinelli was 6 million. Oh, he was 6 million, not 18. Fair enough, even cheaper. But he gets judged now as a 70-80 million pound player. There's no doubt. Arteta has made the semi-finals of the Europa. That is true. That is true. Dinesh says, "Evening, everyone. Arsenal need at least a semi-final of the Champions League. If Newcastle qualify for the round of 16, it will be a bigger achievement because they will." Elite. They are two elite teams, is what Dinesh says here. Tevin came back to us and says that fundamentally doesn't make sense. If you expect something, you believe it will happen. It's not the same thing as something won't happen.
No, it doesn't mean that. It means I believe it can happen. What I expect doesn't believe that it will happen. It believes it can happen, and it believes that everything is in place to make it happen. But it never believes it will happen. Otherwise, why do we do predictions and expectations of football? Because it's the most unpredictable thing in the world.
What he's saying is people that are saying, I think this could happen, that I think this will happen, but I don't think, like, contradicting themselves.
Well, it depends on Sorry, go on. You finish down.
I think football fans sometimes they use the wrong vocabulary. Like, they mean to say something like, I think they'll compete, and then they'll just say, I think they have to win the Premier League.
So look, I look at it along the lines of, depends on how you say it. So if I don't rate Arsenal and I think they're going to come fifth, but everyone else on the panel saying, nah, they're going to win the league, then I can say, I think they're coming fifth. But based on what you guys are saying, well, I expect them to go and win the league then, right? That's not a contradictory opinion. That's almost putting it on you to say, well, you think they're so good, you better be predicting them to win the league, right? As opposed to you saying two different things. But if you sit there and say Arsenal are amazing, they're brilliant, their manager's great, I think that, but I think they're coming fifth. If they don't win the league, then the manager should be sacked. That's a mess. That's a mess of a statement. But I think you have to listen. Yeah, it's context is always key. Arsenal's objective this season must be to consolidate their position as a team on par with City.
In reference to that, I don't think we're going anywhere. Like, I know the way you guys made good points about it's not guaranteed you'll be back, etc. We're a young team. This is only the beginning. Tottenham had a good phase. Liverpool had a good phase. It's our turn.
It's only the beginning. 5 years, not the beginning. Like,
we
you're
just
only
started.
2 years.
Phase 7.
You're only 2 years behind Klopp's tenure. Do you know what I mean? I love it.
Just started, mate.
We'll look forward to getting you on again, D. Thanks for the super chat. Arteta has made the semi. Sorry, already did that one there. We have a big super chat from earlier. It says, squads as they are right now, top 6 predictions from everyone this upcoming season.
All right.
I'll go for as things stand right now, City, Arsenal, Man United, Liverpool, Newcastle, Chelsea.
City, Arsenal, Liverpool, United, Newcastle, and Brighton.
Ooh. Arsenal, City, United. I'm gonna Arsenal, City, United. Who am I gonna give? I'll give it to Newcastle. Arsenal, City, United, Newcastle. Liverpool will get top 6. And who's gonna be the last one to take it? Maybe Aston Villa.
Aston Villa, it's not a bad shout. What you saying, Danny boy?
These predictions are incredible, bro. It's honestly probably not going to be anything that any of us are saying, but I'll go City, Arsenal, Man United. I'll say Newcastle make top 4, Liverpool, and then Chelsea.
Same as mine.
I'll say City, Arsenal. I'll probably say Liverpool and Newcastle. I think United still need to do a little bit more. I'm not putting them top 4 yet.
Top 6 though. Who makes the other two in the
top 6? Oh yeah, okay. Then it'll be United. And I'll probably say us, Chelsea. Yeah, 6th.
And Pete.
Yeah, I think City, Liverpool, Arsenal, and then this is where it gets tough. I think it'll probably then be Man United, Newcastle, Chelsea.
I think people are they're underestimating Aston Villa a lot. Trust me, Emery's a very good manager. I was one of the few Arsenal fans when he went. I didn't agree with it.
I just wonder if they're going to be able to handle the 2 games a week. It's the same thing with Brighton, to be fair. Like I think Brighton might handle it.
This is why
it's 2 games a week.
This is why I put us 5th, is that we're going into Champions League season and then going into midweek, managing the 2 cup competitions. It takes its toll.
Especially when it's like your first time back. Like for you, it's 20 years. For Aston Villa, it's 10, and Brighton have never been in Europe. So it's a big thing for these clubs to be in there, which is why they have the squads to break in. 100% they do. They have the squads to break in. Some of the football they play is brilliant, but how they actually manage all the competitions throughout the season is going to be the most telling thing, and that's what the managers are for. It's what they get paid the money for.
Yeah. That kind of answers this super chat as well, making top 5. But yeah, top 5 again, as long as you've got the coefficient. So Liverpool can come 5th. Man United probably have enough coefficient, and Chelsea definitely did. They won the Champions League a few years ago. They could come 5th and be in it. But I think if like teams like depends on Newcastle in Champions League. But if Newcastle or an Aston Villa or somebody comes 5th, they probably won't make it. They just probably don't have enough European coefficient points over the years. But
I think Tottenham actually have more than Arsenal, because it only goes the last 5 years, doesn't it? So I think because Tottenham have made Champions League a couple of times.
Tottenham will definitely have more than Arsenal.
For sure.
Chelsea will be lucky to sniff top 4. Caicedo is getting gazumped by a Champions League team. They will have no midfield, no leadership, no goal scorer.
Salvio, that sounds like a lot of hope, my friend. That sounds like a lot of hope.
Who is Chelsea's captain?
We haven't picked one yet because Azpilicueta's gone. It will most likely be Thiago Silva.
Yeah,
37-year-old Thiago Silva. So you're going to have to change it again next year.
Reece James will probably be the vice and then kind of just bed his way into it. Do you know what I mean? Because what will happen is if Silva's not playing games, Fofana now is injured. It looks like Silva's going to have to start the season. But if you're talking about Fofana fit, if he starts right centre back, you probably have Reece James captain in anyway. Which is I think is a good way. Is a good way for him to prepare, like to actually get the armband completely. To be fair,
Fofan's another one that Leicester's fleeced, isn't it? After Maguire, Fofana must be another one that Leicester's pulled out the bag somehow. What's it? 70 mil for Fofana? Injured again?
Yeah, 75, wasn't it? 75
yeah,
mil.
His injuries are becoming a worrying, man. He's injury prone. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens with him.
A lot of your defenders are injury prone, aren't they? Or at least have a decently long injury in them. Ben Chilwell's had a couple of them.
Yeah, you're right, actually. Yeah, Ben Chilwell, Reece James, Fofana.
Badia Sheila had a couple at Monaco. I know he's got one now, which is long term.
Yeah,
Thiago Silva's getting on a little bit in age. He's going to have to be rested if he's not injured. More so, I just think there's a lot of rotation going into your defence next year. And I don't know about you, but I've always thought that having a strong, stable back four that can play 40 games a season is what the great teams build off of. I don't think having one game, Reece James, Thiago Silva, Colwill and Chilwell, and then the next game, because James got an injury, Thiago Silva needs a rest, and then Chilwell picked up a training knock, you're going for Cucurella, Colwill, Fofana and Malo Gusto. I just don't think that's going to breed the consistency that Chelsea need to get back to the level that they want to get to.
Yeah, you're right. But we have brought in a new medical team now. Obviously, Todd Bowley came in and he sacked everyone. But it looks like he's brought back some of the old medical team at Chelsea. So let's see in it. Let's see. Hopefully, the injuries will get sorted out. But like you said, we've got cover now. We've got Gusto. You've got Maatsen as well. You've got Lewis Hall. We'll just have to see how we get on.
Yeah,
I like that Lewis Hall. He's good.
Yeah.
This year says, Terry, how comes you're not scared of Liverpool next season when their attack is looking good and they smash United 7-0? Well, Liverpool and City are the teams that I'm always fearful of, and I'll always remain that way. And I've done a video on Arsenal, but I will be doing videos touching on all the other clubs before the start of the season. You just got to wait your turn. But the reason Arsenal's came out when it did is because they're the only team. Liverpool have done 2 bits of business, but Arsenal really did get their big business and all their main business done very early. I still think there's so much work for everybody else. I think Liverpool need 2 or 3 more. United, 2 or 3. Everyone does. I don't think anyone else has done anywhere near enough business yet. Arsenal have, so that's why their video came out first. That's all it really comes down to, my friend. Boys, I want to thank you all very much for coming on, having your say, giving us your opinions. Viewers, always staggered how many of you tune in each and every single day. Please hit the like button before you leave and turn on the bell notifications. Thank you to all my super chatters and my members as well. It means a great deal to us. Back tomorrow with updates for you. Lee Gunner in the afternoon at 3:30, and I can't wait to cook him. Oh, I can't wait to cook him over the De Gea stuff, and I can't wait. And it's going to be beautiful. I've got a manifest of things to cook him on yesterday. It's like a cookbook, bruv. Do you know what I mean? Jamie Oliver settings. Man's getting sliced, diced, fried, and barbecued. It's all happening. Listen, everyone. Take care. Goodbye. God bless, and we'll see you all again very